Nationally, 51% of all storage units are climate controlled. And I think you should pay particular attention, and I'll make this presentation available to everybody via email. So I see some pictures and cameras. Don't worry, I'll provide it to you electronically through your association. So you can see in the Southwest, 69%, almost 70% are climate controlled. And I think that's what once became, when the industry started using climate controlled, it became an advantage in the market over your competitors by offering this climate controlled. Maybe not so much people would pay more for it, but since you had it, they would go to you instead of the competitor that had no climate control. That turned into consumers having an expectation that it's climate controlled. So if you don't have it, if you don't have climate controlled, then today you probably won't get the same type of consumer or as many consumers in these markets that require it. And as we just talked about, climate control, as consumer demand as competitive advantage increased and then consumer demand increased, then we started building more climate controlled. So this is something I would encourage you to pay attention to, because it's very difficult to retrofit both security and climate control. Even if you don't build an individual door alarm system, very difficult to come in after people are already renting there and ask for everyone's key and put this latch on. It's a nightmare. So if you feel like the market is moving in that direction, it's a good thing to pay attention to that, as well as climate controlled. The amount of insulation and energy protection that the building must have, the ratings of the corridors and the doors of the storage units, it's almost impossible to retrofit climate controlled, so you need to pay attention to that in the beginning. Very expensive, if not impossible, to do it afterwards. So I said that we track data and that we now have 12,000 facilities that are participating in this. This is an example of reporting that you can get from REIS through the SSA. So this tracks the second quarter of 2013 non-climate controlled rents in Chicago. So we can look at markets, we can look at submarkets, and that's very important because usually rate is an indication of occupancy, but we're also tracking occupancy. It can also be a good tool to show your lender if you are coming up with a business plan and you show your rents are supported by the current rents in the market area. When you have enough facilities, you can also develop in the data pool, in the data set, you can also develop a predictive model. So if you're trying to determine whether to sell a self-storage facility or whether to build one or what is the timing to build one, we now have the ability to do vacancy trends and forecasts. And here's an example of Seattle. In 2011, shortly after the housing crisis, our vacancies spiked at 18%. And you can see that they've dropped since then. And they're forecasted, currently they're in the neighborhood of 14%, in Seattle compared to nationally. Seattle is closer to 11% nationally. It's important to see how it ranks nationally in the US and then also in the western region of the US. Seattle is doing better than both nationally and the western region. As you can see from the line, the dotted line, the lower one, Seattle is about 11% and the rest of the nation in 13%, and west is closer to 14%. And it's forecasted to, not only for the nation but also for Seattle, to dip back below 10%. Most of the vacancy underwriting that we do for our financial models is based on 10%. So there's another role that the association can have with appraisers. So you'll have a real estate appraiser that evaluates the business and does evaluation. They need this information to support the assumptions that you're making in your financial model. About half of the self-storage tenants have a household income, where household is both people in the household earning, of less than $50,000. This was very important information to give to those that want to impose more taxes, because legislators, lawmakers get to see who it is they're taxing. And we also have numbers, of course, on the total number of tenants in our storage facilities that number in the millions, which are voters, and politicians in the U.S. listen to voters. So most of them make less than, or half of them make under $50,000. One of the reasons storage is a good business, and you can see this from this graph, it appeals en masse to many different customer types. It appeals to very wealthy people, upper middle class, lower middle class, and even those below the poverty line, for different reasons. What are customers storing in their storage units? We have comprehensive data, and it's important. This is another role that the Self Storage Association can perform. By collecting this information, we can give this to not only legislators and lawmakers, but it also can help in your marketing to educate consumers and who you begin to partner with. One of ours is indoor furniture. That might indicate to somebody that when they're selling furniture that they offer some promotion with a furniture store to offer self-storage. It also lets you know what to put into the pictures that you're marketing to consumers. They can understand what they can store. So number one is indoor furniture, goes down into holiday or seasonal items. And what you'll see by looking at this list is there's in the consumers, the residential consumer, there's sort of two segments, two categories. One is second closet or garage users. So when you have new housing being developed, it's smaller, there's not enough room for the holiday decorations or their seasonal clothes. So they, instead of trying to stuff those in a closet or underneath the bed, they use self-storage. The other class, so that's the second closet or garage user. And the other class is somebody that is in transition, moving from one place to another, and they use storage as a temporary solution. And as you'll find in the storage business, temporary is very flexible. It becomes what they think is 1 month turns into 6 or 8 or 9 months. And another thing in the U.S., the Americans with Disabilities Act imposed many requirements on building owners. An example of this is most hotels in the U.S. now that have pools, swimming pools, have to have a sort of crane, sort of pulley system, a boom, to lift somebody out of a wheelchair into the pool. So the concern at a storage facility is maybe you need to put in ramps or buttons that raise the doors or have people there to help move things in and out. So this information was provided to the Department of Justice on a federal level when they were deciding on how ADA or these regulations should be recommended to be implemented on the state level. So we showed that 93% of our business customers they do not have special needs. How do self-storage tenants learn about it? Well, we also measure that. And of course, this type of information, although valuable, it's important to read between the lines and understand. Those that indicate drive-by, the question really is, how did you find us? And in the U.S., the fastest growing segment of people finding self-storage is on the web. And so you folks can learn from that and not invest as much money as we did in other forms of advertising that used to be effective, like yellow page advertising and newspaper, and you can see that it's very, very low on the lead production. Where do self-storage units, self-storage tenants live? In the U.S., most of them live in single-family houses, and this mirrors the makeup of our housing profile in the U.S. anyway. But this is, again, is very important information from both for lawmakers and regulators, but also for the construction of the facilities, how you should design them, and how you should market them. 27% of the people live in apartments or condominiums. 65% still have a garage, place to park their car, but they still rent a storage unit. 47% have an attic, but still rent, and 33% still have a basement, still rent. And again, that's about when they move. When they move, it can go into storage, and then it stays there usually. Also, there are things that we put in storage that we want to protect. And I want to just take a moment to explain that a little bit, because when we had our self-storage, our housing crisis, there were many people that blogged in the US that look at Americans. They're materialistic. They have too much stuff. In fact, they have so much stuff, they need all of these storage units. So the Self-Storage Association has done focus groups with customers and to determine why they store. And it's surprising. It's really not for the reasons that we think, that we have too much stuff. It's because we value what we store, the sentimentality of what we store. So if it's something that belonged to one of your grandparents, to your family, it's been in your family, an heirloom, a piece of furniture that you want to keep that belonged to a relative, a grandmother, parents. And when they studied the baby boomers, that large percentage of population in the United States that is between 47 and 67, they asked, why would you run a storage unit, or why are you running a storage unit? Most of them answered to pass something on to their kids. So self-storage is less about materialism and more about what you think are important to your family, what property you think is important from sentimental reasons. Self-storage in the U.S., most rent 2 years or more. 22% rent 1 to 2 years, 18% 7 to 12 months, 18% 3 to 6 months, and 13% 3 months or less. So we have 31% at 6 months or less. And what you'll find is that you aggregate long-term tenants. So you open up your facility, you begin renting units, and those people that come and go the 6 months, and then you might get 2 or 3 out of 10 that are staying there a year or longer. Pretty soon you begin to fill up with those people that stay longer. So this is the storage consumer change from 2005 to 2013. The Self-Storage Association in the U.S. has done 3 demand studies. One in 2005 and one in 2007 and an update in 2013. And what we see, the key changes here are in 2013, there are more long-term tenants, more long-term customers of storage than there were in 2005 and 2007. And the temporary, of course, then the temporary customer has become less. Nationwide home ownership in the U.S. peaked for many reasons in 2005. That was the number of, the housing market peaked in 2005 with 1.3 million new homes and hit a low in 2012 of 367,000 new homes. Housing improves demand for storage for a number of reasons. One, if you have more inventory within a market, you have more mobility. People move more. Also, during construction, development activity, construction activity, you have small businesses that will rent. People that remodel homes, people that are installing carpet and tile, and rising home values improve discretionary spending. So as improvement of new homes come in, you have households with higher discretionary spending, so their household income is higher on a monthly basis, and they can afford this second closet or garage called a storage. Other reasons, and we haven't really touched on that today, and about 20% of self-storage in the U.S. by area is small business. So those people running a small business, it becomes sort of incubator space for small businesses. Very few places can they afford to start a business just by running a small storage unit and working out of that. Maybe they already have a job and this is where they put their inventory of whatever they're making or their equipment. And as their businesses get bigger, they can add more storage units, so it's very scalable. And if business goes down, they can shrink the size of their footprint by renting less storage units. So it is a driver of both small business and of jobs. In the U.S., it's estimated that through direct and indirect employment, self-storage employs almost 200,000 people, the industry. And if you count the number of small businesses that are operating out of self-storage, that number is over 500,000 in terms of employment. So at the SSA, at the Self Storage Association, we conduct important industry research, and we're happy to leverage those resources to your Brazilian Self Storage Association, the Latin American Self Storage Association. We have a self-storage demand study that we've done. We encourage that. We have the baby boomer generation. How will their retirement affect the self-storage industry? I spoke of that earlier. We wanted to find out why they were storing. It's very important information. The consumer's view of the self-storage rental experience. That was featured on the NBC's Today Show, so in mass media and television pick up on some of these productions and this research. Self-storage is a part of mixed-use developments, which might be of interest to you. As you're building new, larger urban developments, whether they contain apartments or commercial businesses like retail businesses, self-storage can become a component of that area of the project to help it make it more viable. So sources of National Self-Storage Association data. We have the National Facilities Database that lets us track all the facilities that are being built and are built, what their size is, when they were built, some of the information that I was giving to you earlier. We have our partnership with REIS, which provides historic operating trends and forecasting on a quarterly basis. We continue to do consumer demand studies and national analytics, information about our customer base. And we have SSA surveys that we do periodically among all of the operators, all of our members, so we can find out how they're operating. So your association is protecting the industry through battling against threatening regulations, in our case, Homeland Security, liability that's brought on by abandoned records and ID theft. So if a customer stores information about their bank or about personal information about them, if somebody breaks into that unit and steals that information, we have laws to protect the self-storage owner from being liable in this case. You know, America is a country of attorneys. They come up with things. Always. We also battle sales taxes. Sometimes there's fire codes. Huh? Yeah, never heard of it, yeah. Fire codes where the fire department comes in and requires things that are too expensive to do. As I spoke about earlier, Americans with Disabilities Act requiring us to do things for our customers that become expensive. We battle late fees, we both promote our ability to charge late fees and also lien laws, as well as tenant insurance and protection plans, which have become a very lucrative source of income that I think I'm happy to talk to your association about, but insurance companies can provide an insurance policy or a protection plan to tenants when they rent, and many local cities and governments don't expressly allow that in the law, so the laws sometimes need to be changed so that you can allow for that. So the SSA in the U.S. is affiliated with 38 states. And the other 12 states really don't have an active association. States like Alaska are pretty quiet. We are forming charter. Yes, exactly. Right. No climate control up there. We're forming charter associations in states where there is no state association. So we've done that in five states. There's 4 listed there: Indiana, Kentucky, Oregon, and Indiana's listed twice, but it's Illinois. We provide third-party management for associations that have no executive director. And we seek to bring all associations into alliance with the national SSA for future legislation and regulatory work. We have a leg-reg committee that reports to the association, is a part of the association. And this is the committee that decides on which regulations and laws to pursue in the states that we think that'll be most effective. So we collect money from all the members. We create a fund to provide a way to hire lobbyists and create events for legislators to educate them about what we're trying to do. And we also created a foundation to give back to the customers and the members that we serve. So we have a scholarship program through a separate organization called the Self Storage Association Foundation. And each year, the members of the industry, the businesses, contribute to the foundation, and then the foundation gives out scholarships for education and other needs to people that submit a request. Encourage you to, you're always welcome. I've seen a number of you at National Self-Storage Association events. We have an economic summit, which I highly recommend, in New York, January 14th. We have a winter ski shop, executive ski shop. This will be in Park City, Utah. Both those events are limited and they always sell out. So if you're interested, please check in with your association and register early. And then, of course, we have the spring conference and trade show that will be held this year in Atlanta. And I think there's direct flights from Atlanta. And then we have the fall conference in Las Vegas. Well, I want to thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be at your inaugural association event. I encourage you to support these leaders. And I think my predictions about your industry will come true sooner than you think. Any questions? Is there any questions that anybody might have? No? Okay.
Pat, thank you very much for that. This was really, and thanks for the iPhone. I really loved it. Well, it's really great to see how much we have to learn and kind of share from all the experience there. So thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure having you here. Eu acho que, olha, nós vamos meio que ajustando um pouco nossa agenda. Então a ideia é fazer um break agora, nos 15 minutos, e aí nós voltamos um pouco para falar um pouco sobre apresentar os nossos expositores e dar sequência no nosso evento, tá bom? Então a gente recomeça aqui às 4 horas. Não, desculpe, 5 horas. É isso? Desculpe, 4 horas. 4 horas a gente retoma. Obrigado, gente. Até já. Meus amigos, vamos entrando, por favor, para retomar. Senhoras e senhores, nós vamos sortear. Tá, todo mundo presta atenção. Quando fala em sorteio, todo mundo vira o rosto. David, please. David. This is a call for David. Adriano, dá uma chamada aí. Senhoras e senhores, vamos retomar. Happy Hour, puxar a turma do Happy Hour não é mole, né? Mas nós vamos lá, não tem problema. Vamos fechar a porta. Quem é que... David, I'm just going to introduce you and then you... All right. That's all right, just do it in Spanish, don't worry. Brazilians, people who speak Portuguese can get Spanish. Just speak slowly, all right? Will they be able to interpret it in English? Yes, definitely, definitely. If you want to go in English, they'll definitely translate it. No? No problem. So go to Spanish, just go a little slower. And that's fine, I mean, it's going to be perfect. Senhoras e senhores, por favor, vamos entrando. Cadê as meninas? O Flávio, vamos fechando a porta, que a turma vai entrando. Nós vamos começar a fechar as portas para dar início à nossa próxima sessão. Vamos fechando. Tem que agradecer de novo, seu Flávio deu soldado, seu Mark, ou... Hã? Cadê? Agora eu perdi o David. Vamos lá, nós estamos tentando manter a nossa agenda aqui em tempo para que a gente possa privilegiar o tempo lá no salão também, o nosso coquetel, onde vocês podem interagir depois. Agora o David ficou lá para fora. Eu preciso atender ele. David, ready? Ready to go? Vamos lá. Bom. Meus amigos, agora, como parte dessa nossa retomada aqui, nós vamos ouvir um pouco daqueles que estão expondo no nosso evento, né? E por que a gente achou importante estabelecer ou abrir esse horário para ouvir um pouco da visão deles, daquilo que eles fazem, da visão deles de mercado? Porque grande parte do conceito desse evento está centrado na ideia de que se nós queremos desenvolver bem o negócio do self-storage no Brasil e na região, nós precisamos juntos desenvolver o que é um padrão para a atividade de self-storage. Isso vem, em parte, né, pelas instalações que nós temos, pela qualidade de serviço que nós oferecemos, né? Então, a ideia de ter esses fornecedores, esses prestadores de serviço aqui conosco, é porque nós entendemos, e aqui também, né, agora falando enquanto guarde aqui, vários desses são nossos fornecedores e são fornecedores de outros que estão aqui conosco nessa sala hoje. A gente entende que eles podem ajudar a gente a entender e definir o que é o padrão de um bom self-storage no Brasil. Então, a ideia aqui é fazer eles vão ter um tempo para falar um pouquinho sobre a atividade deles, o que eles oferecem. Eventualmente, a gente vai, dependendo do fluxo, a gente pode abrir para algumas perguntas. Mas, na verdade, uma ideia é que vocês, a partir daqui, depois, no nosso trade floor, vocês possam conversar com eles, tirar as dúvidas e entender como é que vocês podem se beneficiar disso. Quer dizer, como é que vocês podem adquirir esse tipo, né, de produto,